Underway in San Antonio, where the Spurs are trying to avoid a season sweep by the Atlanta Hawks. Down goes Trae Young. DeJounte Murray to the rim. Hawks lead at 15-12 as the Spurs try to claw their way back into the playoff picture. You know, they've got this historic playoff streak going at the moment, but they are a game out of the 8th spot as things stand. When you look at this roster and you look at the teams they're competing with in the West, should they be a playoff team?
Should? No,
Yeah.
I don't know about should. I don't think that's fair to them and that level of expectation based on their roster. I actually think if Zion's able to come back and be healthy, the teams below Oklahoma City from 8 on down, I think New Orleans has the best roster. But obviously they've had to play half a year without what we presume to be their best player.
Right.
So that's tough, but I think they have the best roster.
And a bunch of other injuries as well. They had a game last week where they were missing 4 starters.
Absolutely, but Brandon Ingram has become, in my mind, an all-star level player. They've got good veterans, J.J. Redick and Jrue Holiday, a good interior defensive presence in Derek Favors, so they've got enough veteran guys around those young guys. Lonzo Ball is playing better. I like that roster. And then Portland is an experienced threat that's been there before. They're down on their numbers, but don't bet against Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum. So, no, I think it'd be a significant accomplishment if San Antonio could be in there. It's definitely not a should.
You guys know you got to pay the piper sooner or later, right? And for San Antonio, this has been this unbelievable 2 decades of success. It appears that time is, if it's not now, it's really close. They're in a weird situation.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a predicament where we're talking about star players shuffling over the summer and going to different places. Well, they got an all-star in DeMar DeRozan to pair with another all-star, a guy who's been an all-star enough in his career to be considered one, in LaMarcus Aldridge. But this team's not crafted around these 2 guys and what they do best. This is a team that plays in a very specific system under Greg Popovich, and they've had to kind of shoehorn what they do into what the Spurs are trying to do. So, I mean, I don't think you look at them and say, well, this team was built around these guys, and therefore they're going to be this type of team.
Right.
This is kind of a stopgap thing. I wonder, too, if you're the Spurs and you've been playing at a certain level in a certain way for so long, how do you change course? You know, if it's that same,
I agree. That's hard.
ideology for year after year. You just assume players are always going to be able to play in that.
Namely Kawhi
And I don't know where they're
injuries.
going. I mean,
Right.
that's the other
So
tough
far.
choice
The
there
Raptors-
for Greg Popovich and Brian Wright. I mean, I think it's tough, right? I mean, because here they are, they're in the 9th spot, fighting to get into the 8th spot. 4 of their 5 leading scorers are over 30 years old. This isn't a team with a great deal of real young talent. I mean, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, you know, Jakob Poeltl and Bryn Forbes are still fairly young, but not real young.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're headed, and everybody's sort of waiting to see if they're going to stay the course and fight for that 8th spot, or if this is the year that they try to sell off some of these veteran guys to teams with title hopes and get draft picks and younger players back. I think it'll be interesting to watch.
It's hard to imagine Greg Popovich being interested in that at this point in his career, right? I mean, a full-on rebuild. The coaches like to say they love to teach and everything, but really what they like to do is win games.
Well, I mean, if you had a choice, Kawhi Leonard didn't want to be there anymore. So you're subtracting a Finals MVP. Now it turns out a 2-time Finals MVP, 2-time champion. But once that happens, the decision is basically taken out of your hands if you're Greg Popovich. Now you almost have to figure out a way to recalculate and kind of figure out where to go with the team. It's really not a choice.
Well, that's all happening, but in the short term, you know, do you want to make the necessary moves, the sacrifices, to build for the future? That's the tough call there right now.
No, I do. I think it's a very tough call.
Crunch time is coming up on the other side of the break in just a few moments' time. In the meantime, we'll leave you with the top plays of the first half of this season. That's right, we're halfway through Eastern time. All right, in Toronto, let's see what happens with Kyle Lowry here. No.
Oh!
Yes. He's 1 of 4 from three-point range.
That's his one.
That's the one. And with that, 55% shooting at the half, almost 56 for Toronto. Lowry has 5. He just got hung up in the air. Threw it at the rim. Why not? Stuff's going to happen. Memphis Grizzlies riding that 6-game win streak, longest in the league. That's Ja Morant. He is so clever with the ball in his hands for a rookie. Really, for anybody.
I sat with him Thursday afternoon, Matt, for an interview. I had no idea just how slight he was. I mean, it's amazing that he can do what he does physically at that size. He's not even close to being as physically strong as he's going to get in the next couple of years. If he's doing these kind of freak show things already as a rookie, I'm worried about the rest of the league in a couple of years.
Are his hands really big? Because he does all that one-handed gather.
He's long. He's just not, he doesn't have the bulk yet. He doesn't have the mass yet to, you see him going and finishing over people and thinking, this guy's a lot stronger than he looks. He's got that wiry frame, but as he gets stronger and more mature, it's going to be some serious problems around this league.
Put him on your list.
He's on.
Put him on
he's
the
nibbling,
list.
Stan. He's nibbling at the edge.
All right.
You can put him on this list if you want to put him on the list. This is the latest balloting in the All-Star voting amongst fans. Keep in mind, as you look at these names in the order in which they appear right now, that this is 50% of the vote. The media have a 25% vote, and then the players have 25% of the vote as well. So we don't know how it's going to turn out, but I want the evaluation from you guys. Let's start with the East. Trae Young, Kyrie Irving are leading the East right now amongst guards in voting.
Kemba Walker.
To start the game.
Yeah, Kemba Walker and Ben Simmons would, if I had to think, in terms of who's.
Have you cast your ballot yet, by the way?
No, I think our ballots are due Monday.
Our ballots are due Monday. I haven't.
Monday, yes.
Yeah.
Two backcourt guys, 3 frontcourt guys.
Right.
To me, Kemba and Ben Simmons would be at the top of my list, just thinking off the top of my head right now. Absolutely. Those two guys have had all-star starter seasons to me, more so than obviously Kyrie, who's missed a lot of time, and Trae Young, who's putting up unbelievable numbers, but really kind of in a vacuum where they're not affecting the winning.
The worst team in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, they're the worst team in the conference and on the road to hopefully, unfortunately for them, but maybe being the worst team in the league.
His numbers are great. It's really hard for me to say that the worst team in a conference, by definition, has an all-star.
Yeah,
As a starter.
That to
Let alone
me,
a starter, yeah.
Yeah, that to me is always a hard thing, though, because, if they had Kemba Walker instead of Trae Young, we all agree Kemba should be an all-star. Would they be much better? That roster's not very good, and so do you get punished simply because you're playing on a bad roster?
Usually.
Yes, you do, and I like to reward guys from winning teams at the same time. I just think that's a tough choice. I'm glad I don't have that ballot. I mean, we used to have to, as coaches, vote for the reserves, and I always thought it was tough. That was the toughest thing, guys on those losing teams.
It is. I think it's not as tough when you're talking about starters. When you're talking about reserves, okay. I can see in the East when Bradley Beal's been hurt, when Kyrie Irving has been hurt, that maybe Trae Young makes it on the Eastern Conference All-Star team as a starter. And I know the fans, they want to vote for what they want to see. That's fine. But as a starter, I think that's a tough call.
Yeah, I think Trae Young is an all-star. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on the Eastern Conference All-Star team. I'm just saying if we're talking about you reward those first 5 guys with starting spots for the seasons they've had, I don't know how you could put Trae in there over a guy like Kemba who leaves Charlotte, goes to Boston, and has to absorb everything new that comes with the expectations and the personnel he's dealing with in that situation and excels. Like, do you not give him any credit for being able to go to that situation and continue to play at an all-star level, which he did in Charlotte?
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. If I would vote for the same 2 guys you're voting for, I just think that a guy like Trae Young, Zach LaVine, Brandon Ingram, all those guys on losing teams, to me, those are the toughest decisions voters have to make, whether it's for the starters or for reserves or anything, because, you look at their numbers and you have to decide in what you've seen with your eyes, are they empty numbers, or is the guy really doing winning things that aren't resulting in wins simply because the talent around him is not good enough?
All right, let's check out the Western Conference results right now. LeBron James is back on top in terms of total votes in the West among front court players. He's going to make the All-Star team for the zillionth straight year. No question about that. Anthony Davis and Kawhi Leonard would be the other 2 front court players right now. And the guards would be Luka Doncic and James Harden. You guys have any quibbles with these? these picks by the fans?
No.
I
I'd
don't
go
really
with
either.
the same 5 guys. I mean, I don't. The fans in the West, I think, might be smarter than the fans. In the I don't.
Well,
know.
their fans are all over the world. You can.
Well, I'm just saying, fans.
They've
of the
done a better
Western
job in the
Conference,
West.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think they have. You know.
I think by virtue of what we see on the court every night, it's usually pretty logical. It makes sense, like who would be in these spots. The thing that I love that's changed is that we're no longer obligated to pick those different positions. You know,
Yeah.
you used to always have to have a center. So
Right.
It was always like
That's
this thing where you're
problematic
pulling
some
teeth,
years, yeah.
trying to figure out what center when. If we're going to play positionless basketball, 82 games a year for all these teams, we should have a positionless all-star team.
I would
It
say
should
I was
be
going to say
flexible.
I would take it a step further. Why have positions? Why have front
Right.
court and back court?
Right.
Why not
Well,
just have
no,
top
I
five?
agree because I think one of the things we're really seeing in the game right now are the forwards, we would normally call them forwards, who are primary ball handlers. Ben Simmons is a point guard in my mind. LeBron James we have in the front court. He's a point guard.
Luka Doncic is
Doncic is a
6'7".
point
Yeah.
guard. I mean, and Brandon Ingram, it guards the 4, but he's a point guard. We're seeing that across the whole league now a lot. I don't know, where are we voting on them on their defensive position or
Well,
their offensive
We're voting on their
position?
listed position. That's what we're
Yeah.
voting on. But that's sort of
Well, like Jimmy Butler's on the ballot as a front court guy.
Right.
I think if you moved him to the backcourt where I think he should be, I'd vote for him as a starter.
I agree. But that's not where he is. So we can't do that.
I'd vote for him as a starter right now, no matter what. I think he's had that kind of season. I mean, it's just I think
Hard to argue that.
It makes itself pretty prominent at this stage of the season who belongs and who doesn't.
Speaking
on cue.
of the Heat,
Right on cue. Did you
Bert
time
Bond,
that?
Good job,
Bert Bond, he was
JB,
just
good
sitting on
job.
that, waiting for Jimmy Butler to get mentioned. Bam Adebayo, likely to be in Chicago for All-Star Weekend as well. You have to think he's going to get
Pack your coat, Bam. He should be there. Pack your long john.
a heavy coat, a really heavy coat. By the way.
Yes.
Chicago in February. Those are some steps. Jonas Valanciunas with the tip there. Dylan Brooks took like 5 Euro steps on his way
Counting.
to the rim. Larry Markkinen.
Ooh, they need more of that.
Yes, they do. Good one going in Philly. Sixers on top by 1.